welcome to another video. This one is a watercolor and gouache mixed media process video. If you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Irit. I'm an intuitive, color-led artist based in Austria and Europe, and on my channel I share my artsy adventures. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't, give it a thumbs down so that I know what you would like to see. Of course, I would love to read your comments and thoughts about this process. And if you're not yet subscribed, then I invite you to do so. I post new videos every week. Also exciting news, I have a new class which is called the Rainbow Method. It's not about painting rainbows, it's about strategies to help you create art you love with ease and joy, even when you're feeling really down and uninspired. And I share all of that in the class. It is jam-packed, full of video content. And for the month of February, it is available for an introductory price of $97 instead of the full price, which is $147. So I invite you to join us now. The link will be below. And there I really break down everything that I do, and I show you my process in very clear, shorter videos, start to finish, real time. These kinds of videos on YouTube, they're usually a little bit sped up, and I usually chat about, all things art and the process, but the class is much more constructed and to the point. So I like to start my watercolor and gouache pieces with a sketch, and I love using the Caran d'Ache Neocolor one, which you see here in this drawer. This is from this cute little Meeden, I think they're called. They have art supplies and apparently also organizational stuff. So this is a drawer unit that I recently added to my room, and you can see that video, see how that came together. And I am enjoying it. So you can see that in this drawer I have the Neocolor 1 and the Neocolor 2. Both are wax pastel. Neocolor 2 is water soluble, more popular it seems, and has a larger range of colors. The Neocolor 1, which are my favorite, are water resistant, so they're not going to move. And they have sadly less colors. That's why I tend to use both of them. And I personally love the look of this sketchy lines that resist watercolor and are obviously visible in the final piece. That's just the look that I like, and it has taken me many years to figure out what exactly I enjoy. And it's always this kind of balance between a process that I love and a final piece that I love. And sometimes those two are not, mutually exclusive. Sometimes I will paint in a way that is very enjoyable, but I won't like the end result. And so I've developed all kinds of strategies to help me find that perfect, Goldilocks, that perfect in between. So for example, when it comes to watercolors, for a long time, I really love this loose feeling of a painting. That is a look that I love in others people's art and in my own art. And so I've tried to learn from others much more experienced than I was and am about painting loosely with watercolors. And I found some great teachers out there, but a lot of what you will hear if you want to paint loosely with watercolors, and of course it makes sense, is to use large brushes. And many times that process will have like several layers, because a lot of times when you add a lot of water to get that, flow, that looseness, you lose intensity. But for me, what would usually happen is I would make that first layer, and I tend to be heavy-handed with watercolors. And so it would be this kind of giant mess of muddy colors, very intense. And then I would either lose interest or not know what to do with this first layer, because with watercolors, you can't really cover up things. Now, with acrylics, I teach all of this in the course. It's much easier to edit yourself because you can just come in and do a second layer, third layer, fourth layer, and cover things up and clean things up. But you can't really do that with watercolors. And so a few strategies that I adopted were this initial sketch with the wax pastels. They kind of act as placeholders for me. And also because of their nature, because they resist watercolors, they keep the colors from just like flowing into each other and creating a huge mess. So this really, really works for me. I love the look of it, and it kind of helps me keep things calmer and not have everything flowing into, all of the colors flowing together, because I use a lot of color in my work. I have very colorful pieces, and it's kind of crucial not to get everything mixed up, or at least do it very intentionally. And the second thing that it took me quite some time to kind of control it was my brush strokes. And so I like to paint relatively large. This is not very large, but with watercolors, you can't really go huge like you can with canvases. And I don't know, so far I haven't found it very enjoyable to paint on really, really large pieces of paper, although maybe I should try it because it's always fun to mix things up. But this is kind of the size that I like. This is 30 by 40 centimeters, so 12 inches by, around 16 inches. And I use, I would say, relatively kind of a small brush. You can see my brush. It's not too small, but the bristles don't absorb a lot of water. This is also a little bit of a thing with me, is that if I use bristles that absorb a lot of water, again, I get to that mess of just puddles of very pale watercolor that is either not intense enough or too intense. Somehow it never worked for me. So I like these bristles that don't hold too much water, and also this pointy brush, which really allows me to have quite a bit of control with color application. So the point, it gets to kind of a pointy point. And also many times I would go in with even smaller brushes, especially at later stages of the painting. So that is what worked for me. And it was kind of going against most of what you hear about painting loosely with watercolors. So that just goes to show, you should just try a lot of things and be very self-aware and mindful of what it is that you like doing and what kind of result you're looking for. And here you can see my painting here was inspired by the Greek islands, and I just like to build these kind of compositions. To me, they remind me of Marc Chagall, which is, a very well-known artist. And he has always like these scenes of, it's like dreamlike nostalgia type of scenes that he builds with things just like floating around. Nothing is realistic. And I personally love that because my paintings are all about memories and colors and just putting everything together. So I'm not painting based on like a reference photo. I just have things here that remind me of Greece. We have like the palm trees. We have this, right now I'm playing around with this windmill, which is something that you can find on the Greek islands. And they're very like these old windmills that are very, very picturesque and famous. And then you have the blue domes and those pink pops of color, just because I really love pink, but they remind me of all these like huge bursting bougainvillea bushes that again you can find in the Greek islands. Very, very iconic and typical. So kind of putting all of these elements together, and some sun umbrellas, just because I really enjoy sketching sun umbrellas, and they look really cute in yellow. So everything together floating around. There's nothing very realistic here. And also this blob of turquoise is some sort of like representation of the sea, because that's what summer vacations are all about. Also for me, this is kind of reminiscent of my childhood. I grew up next to the Mediterranean Sea, and we just lived on the beach. Like every Saturday I would go with my family, and it's kind of weird because I grew up in Israel, but I now live in Austria, and my girls grew up in Austria. And for me, it's very weird that they have this completely different childhood than what I had. I mean, it's the same in the fact that, I also had a supportive family, and hopefully they feel the same. But it's just the whole experience of growing up next to the sea and having the sea as kind of a part of your life, whereas Austria is landlocked, and you can drive for 4 hours and hit the sea, the Mediterranean, but those areas, like half of Europe goes there. And if you're very spoiled with beaches, there aren't a lot of things we're spoiled in Israel, especially not now, but beaches, when they're not bombed with rockets, are aplenty. And I'm just like used to having all this space. And then if you go to a beach in Italy, like in those areas, or Croatia or something, so either you have a little block of concrete and like people lying there like sardines, or you have these like huge Italian beaches with like 12 rows of sun umbrellas, and it's still very nice, but it's just a different experience. And that's why I think we've become so addicted in the last 3 summers. Yeah, I think so. With just like going to the Greek islands, because you have it's very close to us. It's usually like a couple of hours with a plane, and there's so much choice. And it's just, for me, it's like the perfect summer vacation, especially now that, I don't live next to the sea. So my husband, and also me now, but my kids, we just want to be in the beach, like on the beach in the sea for a few sunny days. And yeah, so all these things together, that's why I really, really enjoy painting these things, because it is kind of the perfect combination of memories, nostalgia, summer, holiday, freedom, warmth, color, joy, experience for me. And that's where I'm at right now. And I've just been having so much fun creating these pieces. I've been painting a lot, all kinds of different things, experimenting with different mediums. I enjoy a lot like painting also with acrylics. And also I dabble in oils, and it's just a lot of fun. And for me, it's really all about the joy of painting. So what you saw on the screen there was also my gouache palette. If you want to know what's in my gouache palette, what's in my watercolor palette, you can find these videos on my channel. They're quite recent, so you can see the whole list. And this is the final stage of my painting. You can see everything is dry. The watercolors and the gouache, they're dry. And now I go in with pencils and I do some mark making. And again, if this looks like something you want to learn more of and kind of do a deeper dive, then I highly recommend you check out my course, The Rainbow Method, because I teach there all these techniques in detail and kind of show you my methods and strategies. And there is something very, very therapeutical about this step. I kind of introduced it to my process in recent months, and I really love just the process of it. I also find that visually it adds a level of detail to my paintings that I can't really get with watercolors, or that I don't even want to, because you can see now on the screen. I just love this very fresh, sketchy blobs of watercolor that look, and I feel like if I came in with more details, it would just lose that freshness and looseness. So adding some of these marks with colored pencils really helps me add a lot of detail and a lot of texture and marks, but in a way that still keeps things very fresh to me, very sketchy. And so I've really fallen in love with this part of my process. And my favorite pencils are the Prisma pencils, like hands down, they're my favorite. They are the most intense, and they're also quite creamy. And then another pencil that I really, really love for its formula are the Derwent drawing pencils. It's like these fat, chubby pencils that are in this kind of terracotta color. And they only have a range of 24 colors. I really wish it came in more colors. And the range is quite muted, but they are just so, so lovely to use. And then I have a few Holbein pencils. With Holbein, they do some colors like no other company. But with the Prisma, it's kind of hard to compete with them. I did order a couple of pencils that I'm running very low on. So once I get them, I'll show you some of the colors that I just love. So you can see here, it's just so easy to add details with colored pencils, whereas with watercolor, I feel like you have to work a little bit harder. So if you are, I don't want to say lazy because I don't see it as lazy, but if you, struggle with certain parts of your process when you're painting, then try incorporating a different medium, because one medium can't do everything. And I really feel like leaving that whole purist watercolor vibe contributed to my personal growth and emergence of a more recognizable style, just because I understood I couldn't do all the things I wanted to do just with watercolors. So consider doing that. And we are almost at the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you soon in another one. Take care. Bye bye.